Many thanks, little gnomes. A spell stopped me from gathering these treasures myself. All in all, you've been extremely helpful to me. So, I've decided to keep you. Off to the dungeon now.
So, welcome back to Goblins, everyone. I'm NATO King, and we're in a dungeon. Who would have thought the wizard we were working for turned out to be the bad guy in the end? Well, in the meantime, we're going to have to find a way to escape, and there's not really a whole lot we can use. There's this vase sitting over in the corner of the cell. It's not going to be very useful. I'll just put it back where I got it. There's also a snake over on the far side of the room, but we don't seem to be able to pick it up. What a surprise. Now, of course, nobody really likes snakes, so let's just fight the thing. It's scary. How about this little cave over here? And if we magic those things, we're going to get exactly the same results. What we need to do is mess around with this skeleton over here. And it'll throw us a bone, which by itself is completely useless. But if we use our magic to turn it into something else, we get a flute. And everyone knows that you use a flute to charm a snake. That little kneeling position is supposed to be an additional clue. I figured I might try it on some of the other things around here, just to see if it does anything different. Never actually tried using the flute on anything but the snake because it was so obvious. But nothing happens. So we'll charm the snake, which we all know makes it stand upright, and that turns it into something that Bobo can climb. And now we can reach the button. Well, every cell needs a drop a rock on Dwayne's head button. Yeah, we could probably escape, but the other two are still trapped down there. So we're gonna need to go and interact with the only other thing up here. This pile of rocks in the corner. And now the rest of the puzzle is really obvious. Have a character stand on one end of the loose plank, and drop a rock on the other side. There's a whole lot of this sort of thing in the game. Get one character somewhere, and then find a way to get the other characters to join him. So we're free, and where does that lead us? Right back to the front of the wizard's house, only now he's got a guard something or other. Looks kind of like a dog. Yeah, if I walk right up to it, it'll bark at me, which is not what I want. So I'll grab this sugar, because everyone knows animals love sugar, carefully walk around outside of its radius, and then offer it the sugar from a distance. Alright, that wasn't very helpful. But I can now reach the meat that's up here. And dogs love meat, but we can't offer the dog the meat. The trick is we need to use it, but it doesn't matter where we use it. I can use it standing right here. And now we can go to the next room. Most people would just use the meat on the dog, which will let us go to the next room, but it will also do this. Yeah, the dog doesn't want the meat. We just need to bring it with us to wherever the heck it is we're going next. Some kind of big twisty tree. And why do we need the meat here? Well, you're not gonna know until you've failed to use it properly. There's something in that tree that doesn't like us. So we need to give it the meat as a peace offering. Once you know what the solution is, it's really obvious. But before then, I don't know why we need to do any of this stuff. Let's just grab the only obvious item here. Yeah, the windsock sort of looks like a butterfly net. Works like a butterfly net. Catches butterflies like a butterfly net. If I can convince Dwayne to walk down the ladders. The pathfinding in this version of the game is just utterly awful. They'll be fixing that in the later games, of course. Yeah, the butterfly is a complete red herring. And it even makes us walk all the way over here to pick up the butterfly net again. So there's one other thing in the tree, this cork that's stuck in the branch up there. And we can't get to that either, because we only brought one piece of meat with us. So the trick to getting up to the top of the tree is the only other obvious standout thing on the tree. Got this branch over here with the leaves blowing in the breeze to say, hey, I'm a thing. And in this game, anything that looks like a thing usually is actually a thing. It makes a very long branch with a little dip at the end where someone can stand, and a little dangly bit on the bottom that Bobo can pull. You can probably see where this is going. Now, we need to use our magic, like we did for the seeds earlier, to get this cork unstuck from between the branches. And now, we don't actually need to get Hooter back down the tree, but it's really a good idea to know how to get the characters back down if you need them. Walking past the tentacle is not the way to do it. So let's try that again with slightly less dying. First, we offer the meat to the tentacle of the hole at the bottom of the tree. Extend the branch. And launch Hooter up to the top of the tree. Things get a lot more convenient in later games where two characters can move at the same time. And if you want to get down safely, you just have to walk to the discolored end of this branch. Apparently it's rotting enough to just drop you safely down. I'm going to grab the windsock and take it with me to the top of the tree, because the rest of this puzzle is pretty much all Dwayne. So once Dwayne is properly positioned, it's going to be time to get to the actual root of this puzzle, which you probably didn't even notice was there. Yeah, that bird looks like just part of the background, but it's actually the goal of this entire screen. The problem is, if we try to catch the bird, it's going to pop out of the other hole, and we can't cover both holes. That obviously is what we're going to need the cork for. We'll just plop the windsock down, and unlike most things in the game, you can use the cork on either hole. It doesn't matter. Once you've got that hole blocked, there's only one way for the bird to escape, and that's right into our net. No. No, Dwayne, I want... I hate the controls. Let's try this again. Actually change characters, and now... capture the bird. Okay, now we've got a bird. Why did we want a bird? Well, I don't know how to tell you this, but it's just utterly ridiculous. So we need to sneak over here and use the bird to distract the dog. Now we can get past it. I always meet violence with violence. But in this case, the more peaceful approach is the correct one. Yep, you just saw that happen. And this is the point at which my friends and I were completely lost as to what to do. Now that we've gotten past the dog, obviously we need to get into the house. But we can't interact with the door in any meaningful way. So, it pains me to say this, but I needed to get the hint book to tell me you punch the door on the left side of the porch. And that lets us in the back door. Oh well, moving on. This is all stuff that I never got to see when I was a kid until I got the hint book. Which fortunately meant that I didn't have to solve puzzles like this. This room is such a huge pain. You've got somebody trapped up in the cage up there. Obviously we're going to want to free them. And to do that, we very clearly need to tickle the foot of this skeleton. This doesn't make any sense, but it gives us the key to the cage. Once we figure out how to get past the skeleton. Now there are a lot of potions around here, which might be able to help us. This elixir, for example, turns us completely invisible. But while we're invisible, we can't pick up the key. I don't know why that is. And we can't really fight our way past the skeleton either. Alright, that was really weird. So, let's try this again, shall we? We'll check out what the other two potions do, see if either of them is more useful. This filter turns Dwayne into a balloon and drops him painfully on the desk. And finally, the potion. Turns him tiny. Which doesn't seem to have any lasting effect, but still costs health because goblins. So what we need to do is pick up this little thingy over here in the corner. It's actually that popular pastime, the cup and ball game. Although it's more like a peg and ball, because there's not really a cup on this one. You have to make the ball land so that the hole goes onto the peg. And that will keep the skeleton busy, although he seems to be very good at it. He can even catch it while he's laughing. So we get the key, free the prisoner from his cage. And we'll find out what he told us at the end of the level. Only now, what do? This is one of those annoying parts of the game where you just have to wait. And then a bee flies into the room. There are a couple of things that you can do to the bee. Most of them will result in getting you killed. We want to squash it because it's a bug, and bugs are stupid and horrible. But we can't just squash it with our bare hands. We're going to need some kind of tool. And to get that, we have to do what I think is probably one of the more difficult puzzles in the game. See, we've already used the feather to tickle the skeleton, but now we need it again in the form of a Flyswatter. This wouldn't be very difficult if the game gave you the freedom to experiment with things, but unfortunately, most of your experimenting comes with a penalty. Once you've got the Flyswatter, though, the rest of it is pretty easy. If you can't pick up the dead bee, there's only one other thing that you could sensibly do with it. And that is turn it into a dart. And there's an obvious dartboard in the office. My question is, why would the wizard hide the voodoo doll in a place where you have to throw a dart into his picture in order to get to it? Maybe he thought nobody would ever want to throw a dart at his picture? But anyway, we now have the voodoo doll that was causing the curse, and all we need to do in order to move on is to take the only useful item remaining in the room. We'll need that invisible elixir for the next area.
Good heavens! This statuette represents the king! Oh, what a terrible way to end up! Oh, the evil wizard has cast a spell on him! According to the prisoner we released, only Shadwin the Wise can help us now.
So finally we've been pointed to a good wizard, Shadwin the Wise. Only, we've got to get past the evil wizard first in order to get to him. Shadwin is naturally on the far side of the garden, and if we try to walk there, we're gonna be seen. Getting caught by the wizard is instant death. Although Dwayne seems to be fine and able to shake his head. So, next time we'll get past the wizard and visit Shadwin the Wise and put a stop to this whole thing once and for all.